going to talk about masked men with machetes.
We are, but you were just yawning there before we started, saying you're feeling really tired. I'm just wondering, is there any particular reason why you might be a bit tired?
No.
This week, no? You're just never going to give it up, are you, the information?
That was really
voluntarily. What?
I was at Rick Astley.
You were at Rick Astley.
I told you that, and you were not to broadcast it.
Yeah. Well, you do tend to broadcast some of my private information on a weekly basis.
No, I understand why you're doing this, but
so Rick Astley was good.
It's humiliation.
Yeah.
As I told you, although you don't believe me, I actually was going as a favour for somebody.
Yes. Do you know what it reminded me of? I don't know if people have seen the film Whitnale and I, where they say we've gone on holidays by mistake. Do you remember it? No. So I went to Rick Astley. Yeah, you went to Rick Astley by mistake.
There was a ticket left over and somebody asked me would I go, and I said, do you know what I actually said?
What?
First time round? Fuck off, right? Absolutely not. And then I was asked again and I was no way. And then I could see this person was asking quite a number of people and was getting the same, even on text. She was getting the...
Yeah.
You know the emoji with the middle finger up?
I don't, because I only do the smiley face emoji.
That's the reaction that Rick Astley, would get. So eventually I felt sorry for her and I said, okay, look, I'll go. And I went.
Yeah.
Very reluctantly and ashamedly. Yeah. If I had had one of those blind boy bags, whatever, I would have. But he was actually really good.
Yeah.
Self-deprecating.
Yeah.
The stage show was pretty good. Like, I mean, he definitely had amazing sort of singers and all the rest of it with him. But I didn't quite get it. It was like,
you see,
it was some of his songs and then it was other sort of
cover versions
of like, but you see, way different stuff.
You see, if you were in the world of engaging with popular culture in a cool and productive manner, you would have known.
But maybe I would have gone to Rick Astley because he's sort of random out there.
No, because you would have known he played at Glastonbury this year, and he went from being so uncool to becoming cool.
Yeah, that's why I went.
But but you went anyway without even knowing the context. So you went to the uncool version.
I am cool.
You are
ultimately. So
and it's
you know.
Maybe,
but I'll tell you what,
you just like
whatever about me. Rick Astley sold out the 3 Arena.
Yeah.
And I don't know, had he more than one night, but he did. And he is obviously Mr. Comeback King. He is very funny. Like, he's quite self-deprecating. He's going around going, I'm a 57-year-old man. My trousers are too tight. Give me a break.
So he is actually funny himself. But you went without knowing that in advance.
I knew it all. Knew it all.
But look, I suppose maybe just like singers called Rick. Like, what's your man from Deacon Blue?
Oh, that's enough.
What was his?
We're going to talk about guys with machetes at a boxing tournament.
Speaking of,
So that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're here to talk about.
Right, okay.
Okay. You've had your outing. You've had your moment.
I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you been to any gigs recently?
Well, no. Don't try and come back to me now with that. That's it's too late now.
Okay.
It's too late now. You've lost this one single battle.
One single battle. I'll give it to you. So we're going to talk about this attack at the kids' boxing tournament, which I've been meaning to get onto it.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's many things happen that we report on Crime World that become almost sort of run of the mill, despite the human cost. But actually, when I saw that on Saturday morning, we were in obviously preparing the printed edition of the paper on Saturdays, and just to see it's genuinely horrific. And
terrifying.
It is terrifying. And I mean,
I would absolutely have been terrified if I was there in that stadium, in that room with those people.
And I mean, the context of it as well. I mean, it was an under-14s All-Ireland boxing night. Just these are kids, like, obviously, and there's no getting around it. Like, these are kids. Not that it's okay if there was adults, but like, it really is savage stuff.
So the victim is a man called Connie O'Donoghue, whose son had just fought.
Yes.
And he was standing outside the arena, presumably waiting to go home or or whatever afterwards, when a gang believed to be from the Clare area who had travelled, it's believed, purposely to sort of target him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you go in advance of any boxing tournament, you can see who's fighting. They obviously knew who was fighting and came up with that intent in mind. You can see in the video, there's 3 kind of masked men break into the arena. It's all live streamed, or because there was, as is routine at any of these events now, there's cameras placed there by the organisers. And you can see guys coming in with machetes and slash hooks and chasing them around while terrified kids are looking on. I mean, really, really shocking. Mr. O'Donoghue you can see him, he grabs a chair and kind of fends them off, or attempts to
defend himself.
Yeah, tries to kind of fight, basically fight them off. But, there's people, I think initially when you see it, it's not really clear what's happening. And I think you get the sense of the people there didn't know what was going on, but it quickly becomes clear. I mean, that somebody could be killed. I mean, that's the reality of it. And, it's genuinely a horrible thing even to watch from a distance,
Sporting events, I suppose, it's not common for attacks to occur at sporting events, but boxing seems to get its fair share of it. Of course, the shooting at the Regency Hotel boxing weigh-in, which resulted in the murder of David Byrne and the injuring of Sean McGovern and Aaron Bulger.
Yeah.
And obviously all that went on after it. But I suppose if there's feuding going on, and in that case there was, the sort of the Hutch organisation was looking for a place to target the likes of Daniel Kinahan, who wouldn't ordinarily be out and about.
No, I mean, I suppose the value of these sporting events, or we've seen weddings and funerals being targeted, is that you definitively know somebody is going to be at a certain location at a certain time. I mean, that's why that event was targeted. But you'd have to think that no matter what level of criminality you're involved in, to look at an under-14's night and think that's a suitable place to conduct anything, no matter what sort of person you are, you'd have to think that should give you second thoughts. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, boxing, of course, has got a bad rep in Ireland, mostly because of the Kinahans inserting themselves into the middle of the sport. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But like, boxing is in the lifeblood of the country as well, particularly boxing at that age plays such a positive role for a lot of young teenage boys and men. It really gives a focus. It's the strength of the sport in this country is almost per head of populations unmatched across the world. And for something like that to occur is just...
I mean, are they going to have to start looking at putting in some security? This is completely, jumping into a different arena, but happened to be speaking to an American couple the other day.
Yeah.
In Delaware.
Yeah.
Who told me that all the schools in Delaware now have an actual uniformed armed policeman or woman sitting in the lobby all day in schools.
I mean, look, it is like exactly.
I know we're jumping into school shootings and that's nothing like what's happened here in the boxing, but is it going to have to be standard to put a higher level of security? No doubt there was certain security, at any ticketed events or otherwise at sporting events, there is usually a level of something, but...
Well, look, boxing tournaments go on all the time, and I suppose these are really isolated incidents. But I suppose, so I don't know if that'll ever be practical, but you have to look at these. So, I mean, this is being linked to a criminal gang broadly in the County Clare area who've been involved in feuding activity. They are the suspects, though there's been no arrests or charges, obviously, at this point. But I suppose it shows you the kind of level of viciousness and hatred of these really micro feuds that go along around the country that you rarely hear of. I mean, obviously, there's gun murders in Dublin and in other places, but mostly in Dublin. And those feuds grab a lot of attention. But just to see that if this hadn't been captured on live stream, where you bring home the reality of these kind of micro feuds where people maybe aren't being shot dead, but it really brings it home. But these things are going on all the time and they're a huge waste of Garda resources trying to police them. Also, there was reports that it was suspected that one of the 3 masked men was recording it himself on his phone, possibly We have seen in these occasions people putting up their own social media posts as propaganda as people are attacked or as attacks are carried out on homes. We've seen homes being burnt out and the culprits doing it themselves. Shots fired have been recorded by the people. So,
and has that video gone up anywhere online?
It hasn't, as far as I've seen.
As I say, it's very difficult to attack somebody plus video it at the same time.
There was 3 guys, but we have seen that before in certain of these feuds where people, as
purposely
they're attacking,
videoing.
They're purposely videoing, and not just
somebody maybe is there just for that purpose.
Yes, and then that is put out in the aftermath as a taunting thing, to slag people off. We've seen that across the country. So it's another aspect.
And Europe, of course, you just reminded me, of course, when Peter Orge-Vries was murdered, they videoed one of the individuals at the scene, videoed him as he drew his last breath, and they put that up on social media as a kind of a weapon of terror to terrorise the people of the Netherlands at that stage.
Exactly, and to taunt rivals. And we've seen that all the time. It's a funny sort of development of people utilising social media for that kind of propaganda, and also to
You'll have to get body cams, because you can have use of your 2 hands while you're
there you go.
You're filming. There's a bit of tips for
feuding criminals. I mean, that would be another podcast altogether.
Anyway, the police were called.
Yeah.
But the suspects had fled the scene, and there's been no weapons so far found.
No, there hasn't been yet. Now, I think that it will be a case you'll see progress in, but they, obviously, if you're talking about Castlereagh, it wouldn't have the same level of maybe of CCTV coverage as somewhere like Dublin, and people could come in from a rural area, and
these guys don't seem to particularly care. I mean, this was being videoed anyway by the event organisers and live streamed on the internet, and you can see the footage. You can see them kind of approaching now. Okay, they might be wearing, their faces might be covered, but there's other identifying.
There is, and I mean, they don't seem to care. I mean, they certainly don't have any respect for the people there. I mean, I just read out some of the comments from Castlereagh Boxing Club's, or one of the organisers, Paddy Sharkey, and he said there was only 2 bouts left, and then they came in. Sure, they ruined it. They ruined boxing. They ruined the whole lot. Hours and hours of hard work went into getting this thing up and going. And some of the boxing was superb. It was just brilliant to watch. And they ruined it in 2 minutes. They are after putting a horrid black line on boxing. Kids crying and kids running. It's shocking to the known world. It's hard to put into words, and especially for us as a club in Castlereagh, we're just stunned that this would go on in any sport. And you feel the guy's pain there.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the guys involved in boxing and that are volunteers.
Absolutely.
And they're doing it to try and keep the kids involved in sport. And we've spoken before about how, particularly at that age, it's difficult to keep them involved in sport, but vitally important. Keep them part of something.
And boxing is a great discipline, of course, for some kids. And these guys, involved in amateur boxing, just like in other sports, I mean, it's a thankless job. I mean, I see it with my own kids involved in football clubs. I mean, the hours and hours that these coaches and parents put into it, it really is a great service to the country, really, isn't it? And for somebody like that to arrange a big event, and for this to go on, it's really...
And you see, it's hard then to shake off that, you know what I mean?
It is.
Castlereagh Boxing Club will forever be remembered probably for this moment. And, certainly in the kind of near future, it will always be referenced.
It will be referenced. And then, of course, if there is further
court
investigation,
or whatever.
Exactly, arrests and court cases. And it's terrible for them. And fair play to them for coming out and speaking as well and being clear about it. And I think that those quotes, they are kind of, your heart will go out to these guys,
But it is hard to know what to do with it, because you don't want to over dramatise the chances of that kind of thing happening again. How do you police it or secure the clubs when you've got volunteers there? I'm sure it also causes insurance problems and all the rest for them.
It does. It does. And look, I mean, what can you do if people are willing to go into...
They probably can't afford security to the extent that... And they don't need it, really, because it is a rarity that this would happen.
It is. But I mean, what can you do when people are willing to go into a room full of kids and swing a machete around? I mean, what can you do about that? I don't know. I mean, obviously the school shooting analogy is America's a different country and the level of violence in there. But
I was only mentioning
no, I know,
because I was so stunned. I knew that that the kids were being trained in what to do if there was a school shooting. I knew all of that. I didn't realise they'd gone to the extent that a full-time police officer was now sitting in the lobby of every school.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, I mean it is shocking, and it's in a way it becomes sort of a level of violence that's normalised in society.
Normalised, but then again, you know what I mean. You weigh it up. Is it preventative?
Well, it might be, but it's still a kind of a normalised in US society that school shootings occur. That's an accepted.
Yeah,
you know, we start from that point. We know school shootings are going to occur, and like we'll try and deal with it from that point. So you're not talking about, you know, stamping them out before they begin. I mean, obviously boxing in this country is a hugely healthy sport and all that. And it's just terrible for it to be associated with this, you know, but it does those, I don't know if microfeuds is even the right word, but they're going on across every major town in Ireland, and there's people suffering terrible levels of violence.
Well, I mean, we knew nothing about that feuding.
No.
Nothing about it until this had happened.
Well, and I mean, obviously we have done stories about these kind of small feuds as they spike or hit a certain point. But I believe in this case, you know, knowing the police that they will eventually get to the
remove that from the boxing, the actual feud itself.
Yeah.
The policing of that will have to be upped, because that is just such a dramatic event.
Yeah.
And, you know, perhaps there would be some sort of a
fears of reprisals.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's, as in this case, there's innocent people that are targeted in all these feuds. And that feud in Clare, Eamon Dillon has done various things about feuding in Clare. And we've seen that again and again, that innocent family members of people can be targeted solely because of their surname. And we've seen arson attacks and vandalism of homes of people that have absolutely no involvement in any criminality, but still get targeted anyway because, you know, just that family association alone can be enough to see you being at risk of losing your life.
Well, hopefully Castlereagh Boxing Club can dust itself off and get on with things, and, you know, hopefully there won't be any repeat of anything like this at any other boxing event. But nonetheless, it will leave a mark on them.
Yeah, and I mean, some other people we had spoken to sources there, and they spoke about people not caring and, you know, don't give a thought to the traumatic effect it would have on people, teenagers there who even saw it, let alone suffered any of the violence. And we heard that during the Regency Hotel trial. You know, we had loads of witnesses, probably didn't get a lot of coverage because they just, but if you sat there, you heard how traumatic it was for people just to be in the room and, you know, not to have ever been targeted directly, but just.
No, you'd have nightmares about that. I mean, that really definitely would be absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that story, and investigation is ongoing as the Gardaí are trying to identify the perpetrators, and you know, maybe there'll be some movement with that over the coming weeks.
Yeah, I expect so.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.